So yesterday, that group of the Mayo Ladies Footballers, who are no longer part of the Mayo Ladies Footballers setup, I guess they're now the ex-Mayo Ladies Footballers, held a press conference. The departed, I'm being told that they should be called. It's a little bit...
what's that song? The Dropkick Murphys, is it?
Yeah. So they held a press conference last night to go through and refute some of the details that the Mayo Ladies football manager had put into the public domain in recent weeks. He was basically saying that this was about the players' feelings because they'd been dropped, and a bunch of the players actually went to the press conference last night and made the point that, well, we're still in the team, so we were getting picked. There was at least 4 of them who hadn't been dropped. So it wasn't anything to do with that, and it was to do with issues around their sense of fairness, and the whole issue of player safety and player welfare came up, and those welfare issues, and they go into great detail about it. Apparently the press conference lasted for about 50 minutes last night, so you're going to hear clips for this right across the day, and you get more details of it as well. We have a clip here from Fiona McHale that we can play you. So just have a listen to this. This is them kind of fighting back against what Peter Leahy had been saying during the week.
When you don't make the start of 15, obviously you're very disappointed, and obviously you're going to try and find a way to bridge that gap and get back to the start of 15, and you're mad to try and find a way or find out when you're going to get back. However, and this is crucial to understanding why this happened, the opportunity for some people to learn and improve is not given by the manager. The manager referred to this on his podcast that he has a commitment to equality, but we never saw evidence of this commitment. We would consider what equality is that it's having respect for everybody, having respect for everyone at the same level. Just some examples to show that this was not an environment that we were in was that some people were not given feedback. Some people directly asked for feedback off the manager and they were not given it. One girl did not make the start of 15 for the Connacht final, and during an individual meeting she had after the Connacht final, she was given feedback then as to why she wasn't starting, and the feedback she was given was that she was lazy. Another player was told that she wasn't committed enough despite having only missed 1 training all year. Like, there's 4 of us here who were started this year, started in the Connacht final. Majority of people here have all had significant game time, so why would we leave for those reasons? Why would we leave for selection issues? It's absolutely crazy for people to even think that, or for it to be even suggested by people. So I want to clarify that was not the reason we left.
Okay, so there's some other aspects to this statement that we can bring you this morning. We've got some screenshots from that. Yeah, so my eyesight isn't going to be so great that I can read this. Okay, ultimately our issues related to a lack of communication, being undermined, intimidated, feeling isolated, and eventually helpless in the entire situation. The whole experience had a significant impact on our mental health. We use the term unhealthy and unsafe and accept and take responsibility for the implication of this. Because that was when Cora was on here last week and the unhealthy, unsafe was mentioned, that certainly got a lot of people's backs up. And
well, it's very strong language, and when I wrote down the statement about half an hour ago, it was exactly the words that I wrote down: lack of communication, being undermined, intimidated, feeling isolated, significant impact on mental health. So the question I was asking myself, what are the specifics of this? And I think that lady has just given out some of the specifics. But in Mayo, men's football and Mayo ladies football, there doesn't seem to be a degree of cohesion at the moment. And when you're seeing Dublin winning back-to-back titles in both ladies and men's football without any kind of drama, the county boards, I know they're separate county boards, just need to get a grip on this and sort this out, because this being played out in the public and he said this and she said that is not good for anybody.
It feels like the county board might be part of the problem in this instance as well. Another screenshot for you, the second one of this. I can read this for you. In addition, mediation, which was another opportunity for engagement and agreement, even to disagree, was hindered by what we believe was an unfair process. So we're given to understand that, pardon me, there was some mediation and that the mediation process got set up. So what we'd heard was that there were 4 separate rooms. I mean, this is exactly how the peace talks happened. You get 4 separate rooms, you get the management in one, you get the remaining players, you get the leaving players, and you get, I don't know if it was the county board or somebody else, but apparently this was a county board appointed mediator, and it looked like this process was going to go somewhere, but it just fell apart after the first time that there was any actual mediation. So some efforts were made, and then the departed players felt like the county board was going to be sitting in judgment on the players who left, so they're kind of judging themselves, really, because it's like, their appointee and their management team and their structures versus their own players who have departed. You can see how if you're the departed players and you're raising issues to the county board about...
Well, obviously there's a breakdown of trust there, complete breakdown of trust, it seems. And what are you going to do now? I mean, where's it going to go?
Yeah.
They just need to get it sorted. Because this is embarrassing for Mayo to be in the public eye in this way and to have 50-minute press conferences.
Not great for women's football the week that they've just put 50,000 in Croker.
Well, and Dublin and we've seen like even Mick Bowen being linked with the Roscommon job this morning in the papers, and that just shows how well Dublin are doing the Roscommon men's job. So get your house in order and come to a resolution on it.
Let's bring you one last screenshot from the statement here. So this is, we must be able to listen. This is talking about whistleblowers. We must be able to listen when they have a problem with structures in place. We must not publicly shame them or indeed ban them from doing what they love before we hear what they have to say properly and before we consider player welfare in its truest sense. I mean, I think everybody would agree that if somebody puts their hand up and says, I've got an issue, that needs to be heard properly. The one caveat to that is that the players probably needed to come out with the full version, chapter and verse, in advance of this, that there's just been too much of the innuendo and there's just been too much of the
specifics. You need specifics. What are the specifics of the case? And I think once you have the specifics down in writing, because I found the statement was very, very hard-hitting in terms of language, but not great on the terms of specifics, which obviously are there because this seems to me that they feel that there's a lack of respect there and a significant impact on mental health is not something you want to be reading at all.
No, for sure. This morning, the statement that the Mayo players, the departed Mayo players issued has been made public, but also what has been made public is the press conference, the 50-minute press conference that they gave last night in Mayo to explain their rationale for stepping away from the panel. I would just like to say at the start of this that we've given Peter Leahy an open invitation to respond to last night's press conference and to their statement and to the press conference. He has agreed to come on the show. He said, though, that he wants to wait until he's had the opportunity to go through the full 50 minutes of the press conference. So just to confirm that we have given Peter Leahy the opportunity to respond to what happened last night, and we will be giving him the opportunity to respond either on tonight's show on the radio or tomorrow here on OTB AM as well. Now, we are going to play you the audio of the press conference. So the statement is relatively succinct, but obviously within the 50 minutes they get into some more details and some more specifics about the reasons why they stepped away from the panel. A little bit earlier on we heard from Fiona McHale. Here's how last night's press conference with the departed Mayo players began.
I first of all want to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Tierney and I was the captain of the Mayo Ladies until I stepped down earlier on this year. I first of all want to welcome you all here tonight and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be with us. Please bear with us tonight. As you can imagine, we're in a very unfamiliar environment. We're not used to a setup like this in front of us. And I just want to stress as well that a lot of us here are not comfortable being in the limelight, and I suppose we're even more uncomfortable with things that have been said about us over the last few weeks, and that is why we are all here tonight. We want to speak up and we know it is the right thing to do. We're here to discuss 3 broad points. Firstly, we want to just clarify some untruths about this whole situation. Secondly, we want to address the reasons as to why we left the Mayo Ladies this season. And lastly, we want to run through a timeline of events that occurred this year. So as you can see from around me, there's 14 people sitting and standing in front of you. I just want to make it clear that we did not step away from Mayo football because of 1 or 2 people. Each one in this group either witnessed or experienced an environment that we felt we could not operate or stay within. Again, I want to stress that everyone is here of their own free will. We are ready to speak up. We want to speak up and we know it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, so there's a photograph of everybody who was at the press conference last night. We'll stick that up as well so you can get a sense of just, they're basically lined out like a team. It's almost a full team. It's nearly, in terms of numbers, a full team. So that is Sarah Tierney there, making sure that people don't think that this is just a single individual who has somehow Pied Pipered everybody into her way of thinking. A number of the players spoke out last night about their reasons for leaving the Mayo panel. Here are their reasons.
We did not step away from Mayo football because of one or two people. Each one in this group either witnessed or experienced an environment that we felt we could not operate or stay within.
It was nothing to do with selection issues. It said in the media that the reason why we left was orchestrated and led by Cora Staunton. This is not true.
There's absolutely no issue with the style of management. I suppose it's what the girls have described is the environment that was created, not for all, but for some, and that's where the issue was.
We've been abused on social media. I'm actually really upset and disappointed by it all, and I just felt like I had no other option but to step away from Mayo football.
Most of the people that have been affected by this, their mental health has really suffered, whether it was in that environment. Some of us probably have suffered from coming out of the environment because of the abuse that has happened in the last number of weeks.
Okay, so that's a bunch of the people involved last night. The last voice you heard there was obviously Cora Staunton. It was Sarah Tierney, I think, who you heard breaking down there, talking about why she felt she had to step away in the end from Mayo football, despite the fact that she had been captain. The players have also said, though, that they do still hope a resolution can be reached so that they can return to Mayo football.
Even before all of this, you'd like to hope that somebody would take some sort of leadership and actually sit everyone around a table and actually discuss the issues at hand here, but that has never happened. I just feel there needs to be more leadership there in trying to actually solve this, for the good of Mayo Ladies football. This is just detrimental to Mayo Ladies football in my eyes.
Yeah, no doubt. And just a reminder, of course, that we have obviously offered Peter Leahy the opportunity to come on and respond to the claims that were made in last night's press conference. We're playing you the audio from the Mayo Ladies Footballers, the departed Mayo Ladies Footballers. There was 14 people in that photograph. We're going to hear from Sarah Tierney and Fiona McHale again here, starting with Sarah Tierney running through the timeline of events.
I took it upon myself to try and fix the massive upheaval within our camp and just try to find a solution moving forward and maybe get everyone back into the one room again. So on Saturday the 7th of July we had a players meeting. It was at 11 o'clock in Brafey, and I led the discussion and I discussed about my experiences the previous 6 months. Probably a lot of players didn't have a clue what was going on behind the scenes, and I never felt it was something that they needed to know, because it's just not a negative thing that players need to be worried about. At the end of the day, I'm their captain. They come to me with issues. And I also spoke briefly on behalf of Carnacon, and I just wanted to stress that the reasons that the Carnacon girls left was not down to anyone in the room, and it was not due to any selection issues. So within that meeting, it was a very open discussion. 6 other players spoke, and we did make a distinction between constructive criticism and between getting personal. And the 6 players that spoke, it was very personal, the manager, the way he treated them. And collectively as a group we all agreed that the behaviour of our manager was just not acceptable. And with that, one person in the room did suggest that maybe we were to remove the manager, and that player is still continuing in the panel, and there was an open discussion about it, and there was discussed the pros and cons of him staying and of him going, but it was equally discussed that he would stay on as our manager. And with that, we decided that there was 6 girls absent from that meeting that day, and I just want to point out that I have all my notes from that meeting, and there was 20 players present that day. Peter said in his podcast the last night that there was 12. There was actually 20 players there, and 6 players missing. And as a group, we said that we'd have to have a meeting the following day, and that was a collective decision to have another meeting and to have everyone in the room, a compulsory meeting. And we wanted the Carnacon girls there and to voice exactly for themselves why they left. It's not up to me to talk on behalf of anyone. I mean, we're all grown adults, and we were leaving that meeting that day. We set up an agenda to basically keep times of things, and we said, look, with our meeting tomorrow, we just have to listen to each other. We have to just listen. We have to, whatever move we do going forward, it's going to be a united move. And we did accept that with whatever solution we came up with, we were going to lose players regardless. So that was the Saturday morning. We all left in good spirits, and that evening I was made aware that the manager and players who were not at that meeting were ringing around, and basically management were telling other players that I was being influenced by Carnacon and not to go to this meeting the following day. And subsequently that meeting was pulled by the county board and by a number of players who were not at the meeting on Saturday as well. And with all that, I just felt like I had tried my hardest. I tried to get everyone into the one room to come to a solution to try and move forward, because I do believe there was an All-Ireland final in us again, and I'm actually really upset and disappointed by it all. And I just felt like I had no other option but to step away from Mayo football.
So I suppose just at that point then, that was the Sunday, and Sarah and Orla left the panel at that point. Now this was an opportunity for us to go and speak to the girls about why we left and what our issues were, and that's something that we regret in hindsight, was that we didn't actually speak to the girls at the time before we left as to why we actually did. I suppose we didn't feel like we wanted to influence anyone else, and we just wanted to leave as a group. So we felt then this was an opportunity that we could actually express our issues to girls, and I suppose speak to them. So it was disappointing then that we didn't get to do that. On that same day, the county board arranged a meeting with everyone who had left the panel. So there was actually 9 of us at the meeting that day. With the county board, they asked us questions. We answered everything that they wanted to know. We were in that room for 2 hours, and we expressed all of our issues to them. So at that point, there was 3 players, Sarah, Elaine and Shauna Howley, who hadn't actually been contacted by the county board at all. Shauna and Elaine hadn't left at that point. Sarah wasn't at that meeting but has never been contacted by the county board. So the county board actually do not know why Sarah's left. They don't know why Denise has left. They don't know why Elaine has left. They don't know why Shauna has left. 12 players left the Mayo panel. Out of these 12 players, 1 player has been contacted by the liaison officer. None of the 12 players have been contacted by the manager, and 2 players contacted the liaison officer to tell them that they were leaving the panel, and the liaison officer didn't respond. So I suppose that's just an important thing to mention, is the level of contact that we've had since.
Okay, just so a reminder, you're listening there to some of the audio from last night's press conference in the wake of a statement being issued by the departed Mayo footballers. The picture there, I think it had 13 members of the team in it. Just to give you some more details on the signed statement, obviously they issued a signed statement and then went into the press conference afterwards. It was signed by Sarah Tierney, Fiona McHale, Denise McDonough, who was a selector, Shauna Howley, Marie Corbett, Cora Staunton, Elaine Murphy, Doireann Hughes, Martha Carter, Amy Dowling, Saoirse Walsh, Sive Larkin, Orla Conlon, and Michael McHale was also there as well from last night. A reminder, of course, as well that OTB AM is live at Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. As you can imagine, there's a lot of comments about this, and we'll get back to some of those comments in a couple of minutes. I guess we're responding to this, listening to the audio for the first time. So just to reiterate that, and again I would reiterate for anybody who's just joined us that we've offered the Mayo management the opportunity to come on and give their side of the story, because they said the point of the statement and the point of the press conference, they waited until after the All-Ireland final was over because they didn't want to overshadow the All-Ireland football final, and they're doing it to address some untruths that are out there in the media. They made a lot of reference to some of the claims that have been made about this having to do with feelings, or the fact that it was like some kind of
selection issue.
Yeah. So,
well, when I read the statement this morning, I said, okay, I'm seeing things like here, player welfare is an issue, lack of communication, being undermined, intimidated, feeling isolated, significant impact on mental health. And you read the statement and you go, okay, what are the specifics here? And then I've just listened to 40 minutes of very hard-hitting, stark audio from obviously one side, and we'll hear the other side, I'm sure, in due course the next few days. But I suppose the questions I'd asked myself are they making it up? They're amateur players. Do they really need this coming out and with the 14 people, 12 including a selector, Denise McDonough, who said there was a lack of communication, transparency and respect. And she goes into specific examples. What they've got to gain by this? These players, a lot of these players have been playing a long time for Mayo. What do they really have to gain? I'm sure all they want to do is play football and get to the business end of the All-Ireland Championships. And all I'm hearing is the word aggression is the word I'm hearing a lot in the press conference. Overly aggressive, repetitively aggressive. Never felt so intimidated in all my life. These are actual quotes from Sarah Tierney from the press conference. Negative comments about my personality and performance. Massive toll on the mental health. So these are not just run-of-the-mill issues. I think about gear or about who's in the team or not in the team. This is a pretty hard-hitting press conference that we've heard today, and I was taken aback by it, I have to say.
Yeah, it's you know, they talk as well fairly openly about having made a couple of mistakes and not addressing the players, those two players in particular who left, who weren't part of the kind of con crew, and had taken that opportunity to explain exactly to their teammates about why they were leaving. And so they feel like that's one of the reasons why some of their teammates who might not have experienced exactly what they have experienced. And that was the other side of this. It was like somebody made reference to Peter Leahy saying that he believed in equality, but they felt that equality means treating everybody the same as opposed to treating certain players differently. And so that's obviously some of that becomes a matter of conjecture and a matter of opinion. If, you know, I treat you the same as I treat this other person doesn't feel they're getting a fair crack of the whip, that's difficult to discern. But there are specific examples. Peter Leahy talked about having had individual feedback sessions with the players after the Connacht football final. It's quite late in the season to be doing that, but one of the players apparently was told that they were lazy, and another player was told that they weren't committed. I don't know if is it can you call people lazy these days? I don't know. Is that
that was one of the things I heard. Another quote from, I think, was Denise McDonough. She was asked if she was blind or stupid or both. That's in the press conference. That was said. Some people not giving feedback. Yeah, the feedback about being lazy, about not being committed enough. That was despite missing only one training session all year. That was also said in the press conference. So, but Sarah Tierney's statement is extremely stark, I would say, and to me, this is just not a run of the mill, issue within a camp. This seems to be a little bit more serious than that. And
this isn't feelings, or selection,
or gear, or training conditions. This is a county board needs to get involved now situation, and impartially.
Yeah, and so that was one of the other bits of detail that kind of emerged. There had been the beginnings of a process where there was supposed to be a mediator, and the mediator came and did one session, and then nobody involved in that mediation process heard back. It was almost like somehow a pin got pulled on that process. So the county board absolutely have questions to answer. It'll be interesting to hear from Peter Leahy when he does eventually take us up on our offer to go through his side of or his answers, I guess, to the issues that have been raised, because there are very specific issues this time.
Yeah, this is not hot air or something you can't. These are specific things that are being levelled.
Yeah.
With the word, as I said, constantly I'm seeing the word and hearing the word in the press conference, which is the word aggressive.
Yeah. There had been a lot of criticism of the of Cora in particular, and then of the other Mayo footballers who left, saying that they were throwing the toys out of the pram basically because they had been dropped from the team. And the obvious immediate answer to that is that 4 players who were playing and were picked for the Connacht final ended up leaving the panel as well, which kind of is like, well, that's kind of it's hard to see how it would be just a selection issue, but also the notion that this has had no impact on them, that we are supposed to somehow decide that you are not so upset about this, that it's not having an impact on your mental health or how you're going about. These are clearly unbelievably committed people who have reached All-Ireland finals, who have in the past gone to war against their own county board to get and to raise higher standards. The notion that this is just something that it's water off a duck's back to them, I felt like there was a lot of casual misogyny around the the discussions that I've borne witness to on Twitter when people are like, your man's clearly right.
These are amateur players. They don't get paid a cent. What they've got to gain by turning up at a press conference and bursting into tears without maybe something happening to precipitate that.
Yeah. So as I said, we've had a fair few comments about this, and we'll get to those in just a couple of minutes. And we're obviously looking forward to hearing from Peter Leahy about this. Obviously, he was just getting the audio this morning the same way everybody else was. It is about 50 minutes long, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what the statement from the Mayo County Board is at this point, because obviously they have to come out and now answer the fact that they seem to have chronically mismanaged the situation. Like you would hope at this point too that it's reached now intervention time from the LGFA, where they're going to say, okay, we're going to hire a mediator, we'll pay for it, it'll be completely independent, it's not somebody that any either side will get dibs on, or you don't get power of veto over. We're going to appoint this person, and everybody has to agree that this is going to be binding whatever happens. Now, we're not going to bind you to playing for the county again, because we can't do that, because obviously as you keep
be bound to the process and bound to the outcome of the process.
And that we'll try and be as
once
honest
again
as possible.
this is back to, I think, what I'm saying, a completely different issue and not a related issue, but back to what I'm talking about with the Tyrone thing, that where sometimes you just need the central body to just come in there and say, okay guys, we've had enough of this drama and debate within the media, and whoever's right and whoever's wrong, that we need to actually, the 32 republics can be sometimes a little bit of a negative for the GA, and sometimes you prefer to see the central body come out and say, okay, we're almost at the issue a statement to say we've noticed the dialogue within Mayo, and we're observing it closely, and we'd like to see a resolution, and if we don't see a resolution, we'll have to get involved in it.
Yeah, and now that it definitely appears as if that time is now. So finally for now, from the departed Mayo Ladies statement last night, Sarah Tierney here recounting her year as captain under Peter Leahy, detailing how the issues came about and how they spiralled over the summer.
We didn't leave because of Gora, we didn't leave because of selection issues. For me personally, I would have noticed negativity within his management style from the outset of the year. So I'll give you a few examples. I was actually late returning to the Mayo panel this year. I returned on the 12th of January. I was sitting exams, so I was away. And when I returned to the panel, we had our training the first night. To just give you a brief background, I had actually a very good relationship with Peter in 2017 and 2013 when he was involved with us previously. So my first night back, the majority of the training was all running, and I just said a passing comment to him being like, geez Peter, is it going to be all running tonight, or are we going to do any football? I didn't mean anything malicious by it, it's not my character. And anyways, the following night I received a phone call from Peter about the comment I made, and he basically attacked me on the phone and basically said he didn't give a F how many all-stars I had or what name I had made for myself in football, that he was the manager and that what he says goes this year. He didn't care what name anyone had, that he would have no problem dropping someone that stepped out of line. He also said to me that night on the phone call that he would be making a call to Marie Corbett as well about her behaviour, that it was inappropriate at training. Now, the tone and the context of this conversation kind of set the tone for the year ahead and any encounters that I had with them. Like time and time again, obviously my role as captain, I was going to him about questions and comments, and it was constantly thrown back in my face about negative comments about my personality or about my performance. There's a few more examples as well. On the 30th of May, we had training in Rochford Bridge up the country, and at the end of the training everyone was kind of gone, and I just went up to Peter and I was like, look Peter, we kind of have a big issue in the backs all season in the league. We're conceding high scores. I think there's a massive communication issue here, and I think maybe if we could get a past player in to either come in as a player or a guest coach and maybe just talk us through a few things, I think it would really add value to the setup. So he just took it on board that night. The following Friday night, the 1st of June, it was approximately 6:30 down in the Centre of Excellence. I'll never forget it. He came in and gave me the curly finger, as he called it, and summons me out of the room, and I just knew what was coming. I was brought away from all players, from all of management, and it was like a personal attack that evening. I can only describe it as I've never felt so intimidated in all my life. He basically said to me that I was getting absolutely roasted at training, that I was performing absolutely shite, and that that the reason that I was so distracted the previous night of training is because I was so caught up with going to him about this suggestion of bringing this guest player in, and he was doing this action, you're listening to the others. I was kind of like standing back, and he was getting like visibly aggressive with me at this stage, and it was probably the first time that I stood up to him, and I was like, who are these others that you're referring to? Like, I don't understand what you're on about. And anyways, like, the conversation ended that night, but I swore driving home that night from training that never again would I be in a one-on-one situation with him unless the liaison officer was there, because I just felt totally intimidated. Again, there was another example on June the 8th. It was 2 weeks before our Connacht final. We'd played Roscommon in a challenge game, and as I was leaving the dressing room, I saw about 10 players, which is nearly a third of our panel, over at a car with Denise as well, and there was a player visibly upset, and I was like, what is going on here? And Peter had mistreated this player, excluded her from the team that evening and just treated her really badly. And me and Denise were consoling this player, and Denise was apologising to this player. This player was told that she wasn't selected on the team and that night on purpose, and that she wasn't going to make the Connacht final squad. So 2 weeks beforehand to tell this to a player is just not acceptable. So while me and Denise were consoling this player, the manager was upstairs having a laugh and joke with another girl who's good friends with the girl who was upset, saying, oh, you'll have a fun journey home tonight. Like, that in my eyes is just not acceptable. And like, throughout the year I've had a really difficult relationship with the manager. I can honestly say it was repetitive. It wasn't a once-off occurrence, and on a number of occasions it was just overly aggressive. And like, I don't know what I did to deserve this, and like, I feel like my role as captain, like, I couldn't perform it to the best of my ability because I was completely being undermined. I felt isolated, paranoid, intimidated, and I started to lack hugely in my own self-confidence because of it. And like, a lot of the issues that I would have spoke to him about that led to these interactions were in relation to like attendance at training, communication between players, and strength and conditioning, requesting an upper body gym program, like, which I feel is very much within my right as captain to ask and to demand the best. And I was just constantly shot down.
Pretty strong stuff there from Sarah Tierney, the former captain of the Mayo Ladies football team, speaking about her relationship with Peter Leahy, the manager of the Mayo Ladies football team. And I'll just reiterate that we were on to Peter Leahy this morning. He said he would come on. Then he got a copy of the audio and said that he was going to wait until he'd gone through the full press conference in detail so he would have an opportunity to respond. And we've extended that invite for him to come on either on tonight's show on the radio, on News Talk, or of course to come on the show tomorrow morning here on OTB AM. But that, I've never heard anything like that in my life.
It's serious, and it's not a lady just saying that on her own. She's got 13 people around her, including Cora Staunton, you know, from one of the most well-known Gaelic footballer in the country, in ladies Gaelic football. So, I said these players they didn't just stack up and start playing Gaelic football this year. They've been playing Gaelic football a long time. No, and I think that wouldn't mind hearing from the county board on it. Yeah, and from Peter Leahy, obviously it's going to be interesting to see when he comes out to talk about this today. Now, there was one thing, the last line of the statement signed by the players and selector was that they hope this would be the end of the matter. You're guaranteed that there's definitely not going to be the end of the matter, that no. This is as explosive a situation as I can remember in GAA in a long time, and it's going to roll and roll. So we'll be covering the story. Check out more details on offtheball.com. We'll put the audio up. Obviously, you can always get back and listen to any of the stuff that we've played on the show. As soon as the show is over, you can listen back to it on youtube.com/offtheball or on Twitter. The full file goes up there and you can just scroll back to anywhere in the show that you wanted to. And if you ever just want to listen to the radio show, the show as radio, you can do that, of course, on offtheball.com. There's a player for you there as well. That's pretty much all we've got time for on the show today. My thanks to everybody involved in putting the show together, and a final reminder that OTB AM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. The radio show tonight
Ray Boom Boom Mancini talks to Owen Sheehan and Ronan Mullen about the fact that he killed a man in the ring and had to continue his career as a boxer in the aftermath of that, and the PTSD basically that affects somebody after an incident like that. One of the last 15-round fights that there ever was in the early 80s. Boxing changes as a result of that. So he's always an interesting character. He gave a fantastic interview to Joe about 6 months ago. So he's in Ireland yesterday and dropped into the studio. So the lads will have that for you on the radio tonight. And loads more besides. Check out our social channels. And John, thanks very much.
Come on, you Spurs.
Oh yeah, Champions League is back.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie.